My muse, besides my wife, is that the golden age of American manufacturing. 20s to the 60s, when things were just built heavy duty and with design, inside and out. Taking apart a typewriter or a washing machine and then finding pieces inside that are beautiful. These people were given jobs, a regular paycheck, but they never got to sign their work. And I think about all the pieces that go into the whole. I'm Jimmy Descant. I call myself a severe reconstructivist. My style is Western Futurism. Those are terms that you won't usually see in an art book. I'm a completely self-taught artist. When I became an artist, I didn't really want to know art history. I knew the big names and stuff, and painters always affected me more than anything. But I'm not that good at painting. Later on, when I wanted to know, then I found out about Pablo Picasso's assemblages from 1900, that he was working on hardware, wood and hardware, and then a guy named Marcel Duchamp, who, did the famous urinal and the bicycle wheel on a stool. So as I learned about other sculptors and assemblage, it was thrilling because I had found it myself. I was born in Michigan, where my mom was from. My mom and dad got together in the Air Force, but my dad couldn't hack it. It was just too cold, so I grew up in New Orleans. One day I saw an ad in the paper that said, rock band needs road crew willing to travel. And that was it. I got a job with this band, and then I did road work for 10 years. Right at that time, I had found a vintage vacuum cleaner at a flea market, and it looked just like a Buck Rogers rocket ship. When I found the vacuum cleaner, I just had a calling, so I took an old beauty shop chair apart and put wings on it and put it on a stand and put lights on it. I quit the road life with the bands, like on a dime. I said, that's it, I'm staying home and I'm gonna be an artist. And then I got into music festival in New Orleans, and that was like my first show, and sold out. And my first vacuum cleaner I ever sold went to Matt Groening, who created The Simpsons. He was talking about this TV show. He was working with robots and rocket ships and stuff, and it turned out to be Futurama. Had this drive to be a live art performer and put myself out there on stage. 2, 1, 2, 3. I'd been a roadie and I'd played guitar on stage with bands sometimes when I wasn't a really good musician. I don't do any welding in my work. It's all bolted together and cold connections, because everything comes from different places. Then I came up with the phrase Western Futurism, and taking the rocket ship kind of ascension and putting it into the Western art about cultures and peoples, land use, water use. Right now, there's a sculpture park, and I have a 10-foot rocket ship out there in a show called Joy. The rocket is called The Strength of the Sky. The dedication is actually to John Harrington in 2002, who was the first Native American in space. And then just This year, 2023, a woman named Nicole Mann was the first Native American woman in space, and it's for positivity and ascension. That's where the title Strength of the Sky comes from. This is the first piece I built in this house in my studio. It's called Red American America. I'm using the parts that were manufactured for American progress. And in the same time, the American progress, the manifest destiny, was destroying tribes across the nation. I use a lot of steam irons in my work as well, and it's metaphors for heat and pressure, especially the Southwest desert. I don't use any real guns or bullets or bombs in my work, but in the American West, this is definitely a part of the expansion and the oppression. I use old vintage baseball catcher's masks to represent that masking of who you can be in public and who you can be in private. Since I got to Arizona, I came up with this series of the shape of Arizona and Mexico. A lot of times my work has one big metaphor and then 50 small ones all mixed in. The title is La Familia Humanidad. I hammered out the shape of Arizona and Mexico, and then I recreated the Arizona flag in my style, and then taking old vintage screwdrivers to make more of a headdress. Feeling these screwdrivers that I collected at yard sales and thrift stores over the years. A lot of times I don't even wash these because they were used by mechanics and regular people for years, and they all have their own feel. And then the border I made out of vintage railroad tracks, crossing the border, over the wall, under the wall, whatever it takes for people to see their families and get their culture, which is not defined by a line. It takes a lot to get it all, but people love looking at it, seeing what parts I use and what I'm saying. I want to hear, how does this affect you? But most of the time as an artist, you don't know. You never hear all the good and bad coming back to you. You have to let it out there in the world.